Hey everybody, I got so excited about the 3 stages of dog training that I forgot about the 3 secrets to dog training. The first major, the first major secret is being consistent in your dog training. Now, dogs are generalizers. I say this over and over because people often overlook that fact. They generalize everything. So the more consistent we are in every time we engage with that dog or interact with that dog, the faster that dog's going to learn and kind of go with the flow a little bit. So the first thing we need to do when we get our dog is to create boundaries. I would rather be very strict and firm the first few weeks I have a dog, whether it be my own dog or during training, to the point where it understands what is to be expected, and then start becoming more relaxed on those boundaries and be more lenient. But if I start off being lenient, the dog doesn't fully understand what those boundaries are, and it creates a state of confusion. Imagine when you're a kid and one minute you're allowed to eat ice cream and then the next minute you're not allowed. Without that context, you're not going to understand why you're being reprimanded or anything else of that nature. So if we're strict first and then we reward them, or then we start giving them a little bit more leniency, it's a lot better than starting with leniency and then trying to create consistency. The next thing we have to have is a good training environment. In the dog world, it's very hard to find a good environment because everybody's really political. They have their own mindset of how things should be done, and then they conflict with others and they start aggression. It's like religion and politics. If you don't believe what they believe, then you are wrong. It doesn't matter. They often focus too much on the differences that they kind of ignore of what you have in common. So it's good to find people that have the same goals as you, the same ideas as you, and train with them so that way you can keep those boundaries going and stay consistent. With the training environment, you also need a good, steady program. And that's what this video series is doing, is trying to give you a good program to base your training off of. I know a couple dog sport people. The reason they have terrible dogs and they're not getting titles or anything is because they don't have a program and they're not sticking with it. Any program will work if you stick with it. But what happens a lot of time is they'll have a program, they'll use that program with the dog for months, and they'll go to a seminar. And that person teaching that seminar has a different program. Then they go, I really like that program, and then they start taking over that program. Now the dog's in a state of confusion because it's saying, hey, that's not the training language that we've already discovered and have been working on. Now you're changing it up. So the dog's not understanding this transition. If you're going to change a program, do it incrementally to bridge that gap, unless you're going to get a very confused dog. So find a program, get that program, be well aware of that program, and then incorporate that in your training, because that kind of coincides having a good training environment and boundaries through consistency. So have a good program. That's what this is for. This is why we talk about the science and the ideas and the principles before we go into technique. Because if you understand the science of a program, that program is going to make more sense to you. So with consistency, set boundaries, have a good training environment, and have a good solid program before you start. Now the 3 Ds of dog training. The first thing I will work on is duration. Now, you can teach a dog to sit down and stand, and that's great. But how long can you do it? Everything, no matter how well your dog is trained, is dependent on these 3 Ds. How long it will do the obedience for, how far it will do it. Also, how much will it do under distraction. So duration is the first thing. This is why we incorporate that good marker. When the dog is sitting, we can say, good, good. And then we can encourage that dog to sit for longer and longer, working that duration. Duration then will lead to distance. So now I tell the dog to sit, the dog sits, I say, good. I take a couple steps back. Good. More steps back. Good. Then I come in and I reward the dog. I tell it to sit. it sits. I go further and further. This can also mean I send the dog out and command it. So now I take 10 steps back, I tell the dog to place. The dog goes and places. I'm 10 steps away. Now I say down, the dog downs. I say sit, the dog sits. And I'm at a distance. So distance is creating distance from you and the dog and commanding the dog at a distance as well. And of course, this leads to distractions. Distractions is the final step in dog training secrets, really, because if you can make a dog listen under all distractions, then you have a well-obedient dog. And you must work on all of these incrementally in generalizations. So what I will do, for example, is I will use my living room. I will teach the dog in the living room. And then I'll make duration, distance, and distractions in the living room under controlled environment. Now I tell the dog to place. The dog places. I roll a ball across the floor. It breaks the place command. I put it back on the place command. But now if I have consistency in its reliability, then I'll move to the backyard. It's fenced. A little bit more distraction. There's cars driving by on the outside of the fence line. Things of that nature. Birds. But now I'm training it outside. Then I'll move to the front yard. When the front yard there is no fences. There's more cars. Then we'll go to stores. Then we'll go to parks. And we'll start with duration, then distance, and distractions at each new place. And this will lead to socialization and engagement. You can have a well-obedient dog, but unless it's sociable and engages with you in all locations, then chances are you don't really have an all that well-trained dog. Socialization is very key because my goal in dog training is to give dogs freedom, to unleash the beast, Tierney, to unleash the dog from its cage, from its prison. So if you think about it, I hear people all the time, well, my dog lives a good life. Like, your dog lives in a prison. Explain that. Well, it lives in a building. It only goes outside once or twice a day. It never goes on trips or anything. It sounds a lot like a prison. They stay inside, they go out a few times a day for exercise, they come back inside, and then you lock them back up. So the better trained your dog, the more consistent you are in your training, the better they are with duration, distance, and distractions, means the more places you can take them. The more places you can take them means the more involved in your life they're going to be, which means that bond's going to be bigger. Now imagine you going to the bank and being able to leave your dog, take your dog with you. This is a true story. I had a dog named Coda. And he was such a well-behaved dog. My bank was walking distance, so every now and then I would walk my dog. I'd put him in a sit at the outside of the door because on the door it says no pets allowed. I'd tell the dog to sit. I'd walk in, I'd do my transactions. After a few times, say, that is a obedient dog. You can bring him in next time if you want. So next time I brought him in. It opened that door literally to more socialization because of how consistent I was in training. Then I got to the point where I could pretty much take my dog anywhere I wanted to go because people knew he was a well-trained dog. They didn't have fear of that dog. I took him to new places because I knew I didn't have to worry about him. If you have a disobedient dog or an under-trained dog, you're never going to be confident in that dog's ability to listen to you under distractions. So you're going to limit that dog's life. So with socialization, you need to move from the house to the yard, to the park, to the stores. You need to take this dog everywhere you possibly can to get that dog, A, engaged with you in all locations, to desensitize the dog to all these new distractions, but also to make it more social to more people. The more people this dog sees, the less aggressive it's going to be, the more confident it's going to be, the more energetic it's going to be. You'll have a happier dog the more it's socialized. There's not going to be these fear bites, especially if you have that program that works on engagement where the dog focuses on you, where those accidents happen a lot less. So the 3 secrets to dog training is work on your consistency, work on the 3Ds, and socialize your dog and engage with it everywhere. So hopefully this will open up more doors literally for you as well as it has for me in the past. And now with this secrets underlying everything you do in your dog training program is going to help you in the long run.